If you knew me before, you wouldn't even look my way. If I had the nerve to speak, you wouldn't hear what I say. Time has come and gone so fast, we're not who we used to be.
And welcome back to Sullivan's Unheard Voices. I'm here with Carina. Carina, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So I've always wanted to talk to somebody who does like the nails and the nail business.
Yeah.
Because it's such a unique thing. And it's also like one of my like ways that I do self-care is I get a manicure once a month. Because
Yes.
it's one of those things where it's just such an experience. Like, how did you get started in nails in the first place?
Well, actually, it's kind of funny. Before this, I actually used to work in insurance.
Interesting.
And I know. And it's so opposite, right? I went into it so young, but it just wasn't for me. I didn't like the feel of insurance. It just was too much pressure and it just wasn't my thing, and I love people. I love helping people feel better about themselves because I feel like that's important, not everybody gets to do those things. So, when I left the insurance industry, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go to beauty school because that's what I want to do. And I just did it, and I'm glad that I did. I've met so many amazing people throughout the years who've been my, clients from a long time ago now. And, a lot of those people have become like friends or family. And
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And it's nice to help people feel good because for them, it's their one place where they can come and just like not think of anything else and, get their fingernails all pretty or get their toes done or just vent,
And it's interesting because like I would imagine insurance is one of those industries where it doesn't matter what the scenario is, if somebody's calling you, it's a bad day. As
Yeah.
opposed to like getting your nails done, no matter what, it's a good day. So it's almost like a
Exactly.
different sort of mentality to it.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, insurance was a lot of work. I loved it, but it just wasn't for me. Like, I enjoyed the aspect of helping people and, I did a lot of customer service and helped a lot of the Spanish speaking people. And that was like a lot because that's like half of the people for the place I worked at. And, while it was fun while it lasted, but then I'm like, this isn't for me. Like, I want something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like you go to beauty school and then what along your journey through beauty school, what was it about owning a business that sort of attracted you?
Yeah. So, when I first started, I worked for a few other salons first. And, I worked at a kids salon for a while and I loved it. That was so much fun. So I've worked with all ages doing what I do and it's wonderful. I've worked at a retirement community and I absolutely loved it. Everyone just like is so sweet and thankful and appreciative. And, I just love that. It just feels good that you're just doing what you're doing, but it's making a difference for somebody else, and I love that feeling.
And so I'm curious. So one of the things that I'm curious about is because from the nail salon perspective,
Mhm.
how difficult is it to source the actual nail pieces?
Like, like,
Like the fake nails itself,
okay.
or like the nail polish, the nails, all of that
Yeah.
stuff. I would imagine it's kind of almost impossible at this point to procure that from the United States, right?
Well, like the products that I use, like
Yeah.
they're all made here, which is
Interesting. See, that's amazing.
yeah. So
Tell
I'm
me more.
lucky. Okay, so I use a brand that it's made here. So I'm lucky I don't have to worry about like tariffs and stuff,
Or
especially
even
now.
like the part I'm
The
concerned
like
about is
illegal
more,
stuff. They're
yeah,
like, okay, so they have like acrylic brands that have a chemical called MMA, which is illegal in the United States. And so, when I first started doing nails, they would tell you that in beauty school is you can't use that because it's not good for people and it's, goes against all kinds of health codes.
because it's kind of poison, right?
Yeah, and it's not meant for your nails.
Yeah.
And so, the thing about it is when people would have their nails done with that stuff, it's impossible to come off. And so the only way to remove it is filing it off. And even then, like, it takes a lot of work. And I remember, in the beginning of my career, I definitely had a few people that had that type of product on. And, one thing that I've always done is I like to educate my clients because that's important to me. I went to beauty school to learn to do this stuff. And one thing I noticed is when you go somewhere, they don't teach you like how to take care of your nails or what's healthy for your nails or your skin. And I just thought, you know what? That's what I'm going to do because I feel like people don't know what is good for you. And I love showing people that.
That's a good point because now that I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking about all of the places that I've ever gotten my nails done, no one has ever talked to me about aftercare
Yeah.
or how to even stop the hangnails to begin with.
Yeah. See, and
That's
that's
fascinating.
yeah, that's what I love to do is I like to tell everybody like this is what you can do at home and it's inexpensive. I will never sell like, expensive products to people. I always tell people you can get good quality stuff at a really good price, at your local stores or order it online. Because, what if they move or something and they still want to have those products? So it's more accessible and they love the fact that they get to learn how to take care of their nails. And then when their nails are growing healthy and their cuticles are healthy, they're like, wow, my nails have never been like this. This is the first time that my nails are healthy or have grown this long or, and I love that. I love teaching people that.
So if you were to talk to somebody now about some of the tips for people to like maintain healthy nails,
Yeah.
what
So
are some of the surprising ones that people don't usually think about?
honestly, I'm just going to tell you what I tell everybody.
Please.
It's as simple as vitamin E oil.
Interesting.
It just works because there's other oils that are thicker and they're just so saturated that they just kind of stay on the top of your skin and don't absorb all the way. So you're just left feeling greasy and oily. That doesn't feel good.
No, it does not.
But I always tell people vitamin E oil, it's, meant to work with dry skin or chapped skin and it heals, even scars. So it's like natural and it does all those things already. And little goes a long way. You don't need a whole lot, maybe 1 drop or 2 for both hands all together. And that's all you need.
That's interesting.
And you know what? Everyone is like, yeah, sure, whatever. But once they start doing it, they're like, oh my gosh. Like,
Where has this been my whole life?
yeah. And they come back like, 2 weeks later, like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this and look at my hands. They're so healthy. I've never seen them like that, But I'm like, you just have to stick with it. Do it every day if you need it every day or at least a few times a week. Just depends,
Yeah.
Everyone's different.
And then in terms of like the business piece, right?
Mhm.
So like, what was it that prompted you to start a business itself?
Okay. So the last place I worked at, they were thinking about closing shop. And I started thinking like, okay, if that happens, what's that going to look like for me? And I loved working with them. They were like, it was like my favorite place, one of my favorite places to work at. And I loved the people I worked with. And so I had to make a plan and be like, okay, what am I going to do after this? And then I had a really great friend who actually started her business in the Reed Opera House. And she talked me into going over there with her. And that's just how it started.
And I love the Reed Opera House too. For those listening who have never been to downtown Salem, Oregon, there's a place called the Reed Opera House. So there's sort of like this community collection of independently owned business owners.
Yeah.
And I like the feel and the vibe down there because it's almost like a sense of community, which is unique when it comes to like businesses. And so like, tell me a little bit about your experience there, because I would imagine having the support of your neighbors really helps in terms of your ability to be successful, right?
Yeah, so basically, I feel like we all kind of look out for each other. I try my best to go like meet everybody, and I'm on the lower level. So I try my hardest to like meet everybody when they move in. And I always go introduce myself and say hi to everyone. And, I always tell my clients about the other people's businesses. And I feel like that's kind of like the community part, right? We each try to help each other out, or like new people that move in, like they always ask me like, okay, like, can you give me some tips of what I can do to like, get people in here and such and such. And, I always love to help people. And, one thing that I love, and it's like one of my favorite things to use, is Canva.
Okay.
And when I first started, I had no idea what I was doing, but I was like, okay, like I need to have someone like make my logo or things like that. And then I'm like looking around, I'm like, oh my gosh, these prices are crazy, right? And so I'm like, girl, I'm on a budget. I'm starting out. Like I need to figure something out. So I'm like, maybe I can learn to do it myself. So someone recommended Canva, and so I started playing with it and I loved it. And so anyway, I started making my signs and things like that. And then I would just go and print them off and have them printed. And I love that. So I always tell, local business owners, use Canva. Like you can make your own logos, you can make your own signs, and it's so much cheaper. I mean, shout out to those that actually do that for a living, because that's pretty awesome. But, when some of us are on a budget, it's a little harder.
It's when you reach that level of success and you don't need
Right.
to spend the time doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's one of those things too, where I'm not at that level yet either. Right. I still need to do all of the stuff myself, and it can be a
Yeah.
struggle.
And it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun figuring everything out because, when I started my business, I didn't really know what to do with the other aspects of having a business. I knew how to work in a salon. I knew how to run the salon, but I didn't know the behind the scene things, like you're the receptionist, you're the person that makes all the appointments, you're your financial person, you're everything. And you're wearing all these hats and you're doing all these things. And, it can become a little overwhelming at first because it's so new.
And it's one of those interesting things too, because the small business is the backbone of our society. It's sort of like what we were founded on. It's the fabric, and anything we can do as a society to support the small business infrastructure, I really want people to do that. And also it's just the difference in level of customer service, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people I don't think understand that owning a business is not a 9 to 5.
No.
It kind of never stops, and it's a sacrifice of your time, it's a sacrifice of your energy, and it's a sacrifice that goes way more than people understand. And if you're a CEO of a large conglomeration, you've got 75 people doing that, and you can go home at 5.
Yeah.
The small business owner,
Yeah.
they're still there at 6 o'clock doing the books, making sure that the next day is planned for. And so I always talk ad nauseum on this podcast. That's the reason we want to support small business, because it's so needed.
Yes, I agree 100%. Owning a business is like having a child.
Yeah.
You're on 24/7. It doesn't matter if you're home. I'm constantly getting messages like, hey, I need something with this or that. And I'm just like, okay, and I do try to set boundaries because sometimes like it can be overwhelming. So like if you have someone that's like messaging you at like 9, 10, 11 p.m. or later, I wait till the next day in the morning to answer back. Because sometimes, it just kind of takes over because you're running the whole show. You're wearing all these hats. You're the one doing it all. So it's okay to give yourself a little grace and set a little bit of boundaries. That's important, or you're gonna just, be overwhelmed.
That's huge for me too, because like I interview a lot of musicians,
Uh-huh.
and musicians are on a different time schedule than a lot of people. And so my phone usually gets blown up at about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, midnight.
Oh yeah.
And so I have had to sort of, at first I would like, I'm geeking out. I've got to respond. Like, no, it's okay to shut your phone off at 8 p.m. and just
Yeah.
be present. Because if you don't provide that time for yourself to recharge and give yourself that self-care, you burn out so quickly.
Oh yeah.
So I'm curious though, is one of the things that I've always been curious about in terms of like the nail business itself, um, is the cuticle piece.
Yeah.
Um,
It intrigues you the most.
yeah.
Okay.
And the reason it does is because I can't do that myself.
Oh, I know. It's so hard.
It's a talent that I don't think a lot of people appreciate.
It's really all about the angle,
Interesting.
Like, I will say this, I've been doing this for, like almost 15 years now.
Yeah.
And I've been doing my own nails since I can remember.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I was like, maybe I'll go to beauty school, because it's just something that I was always interested in since I was a kid. But when I started doing my own nails, that's how I learned better, because it's like I get to see for myself, like, what does that feel like? What am I doing here? Like, is this what it's going to feel like for everybody else,
Yeah.
And, it is harder to do your own cuticles 100% because, most people only have one dominant hand, So, like, sure, you can do your nails with your dominant hand on the other, no problem. But then when you got to do the dominant hand with your non-dominant, that's where, it gets tricky. And some people just overdo it and make themselves bleed a little bit,
Guilty.
It happens.
Mhm.
But, that's why I love what I do, because, some people need it, and that's what I'm doing for.
And something else I want to talk about too is the stigma piece.
Uh-huh.
And the reason I bring this up is because I know a lot of men that don't go to get a manicure because they think there's this stigma behind getting their nails done. But I can attest just how much amazing your hands feel after you've gone through a manicure or a pedicure.
Absolutely.
And so talk to people who may be like on the fence about getting their nails done, about like how accepting and affirming your nail salon is. So you don't
Yeah.
care who comes through.
I don't. I accept everyone who walks through my door. I just wouldn't see why anybody else wouldn't. I feel like, I'm here to take care of everybody. That's my job, and I happily will do it. And I do have a lot of male clients. And so one thing I will say is, surprisingly enough, having a manicure done feels amazing. It's like, that massage on your hands. You would never know how good a massage actually feels on your hands until you have one done. And it's, it feels great, because it's like, who would think that massaging your hands feels good, right?
Especially at that trigger point on the wrist.
Yeah.
That spot. It's just that one spot where like your whole hand is just like, it's
Yeah, our hands do so much every day, and we don't realize how much we use them. But, they need some TLC too. They need a little massage, and it feels great. But yeah, there is a big stigma. Most men feel like, oh, that's just feminine. And I think it's because when they hear the word manicure or get your nails done, they think that that means you have to wear nail polish or have some crazy designs on, but it doesn't mean that. It's just part of hygiene, and maintain your nails clean and done, and it feels nice.
because like I have been in situations before, and more than like a dozen times, where I'll walk into a nail place and just not get service because I'm a dude.
Really?
Yeah, that's happened like at least a dozen times in the Portland.
No way. They
Yeah.
just turn you down
They
like,
just ignore me or like pretend like I'm not even in the lobby.
oh my God.
That's happened like there used to be one place that used to be in the mall in downtown Salem where I would go. I would go just to prove it a point. Like I would go 3 times, not 3 times a week, but like twice a month.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm like, screw you, I'm gonna go and just sit there and make you
Yeah.
feel uncomfortable for a moment. Because
I
like,
can't believe that.
yeah, they're no longer in business, but I think it was a
Okay.
customer service altogether.
Well, that's
And
rude.
so it's one of those things where if you find a spot that is affirming and welcoming,
Yeah.
I thank you for that.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
absolutely. See, I didn't even know that this happens.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't believe that somebody wouldn't pay attention to you or turn you away because you're a man. Like, I get a lot of men and I never turned anyone down. And, most of the time when they come in, I welcome everyone the same way. And I never question, like, oh, they're not here for a service. Like, no, I treat everybody the same. And, because I have a lot of nail friends, I know that they're looking for somewhere to get their toes done or their manicure done. And, it's in the first word, manicure. So why not?
So when you started sort of like your pathway to business
Uh-huh.
and sort of found that space, how hard was it to sort of renovate that area for a nail salon?
Gosh, that was the hard part for me. Like when I first got my first spot at the Reed Opera House, you want to make it feel inviting, but you want to make it your space. So you want to decorate what you think is cozy and feels like a salon or somewhere where someone wants to come and relax. So I kept it simple and clean because I feel like that's most relaxing. And the lighting, I feel like a little more of a dim lighting makes it feel a little more relaxing for people because I want to be inviting to everyone. And if sometimes too much lighting can be a little too much for others, and then they don't feel like they're relaxing. So I always play really mellow music in my shop, and the lights are usually more on the dim side because I want you to relax. I want you to come in and just like, if you're getting your toes done and you just want to like melt in the seat and close your eyes and take a nap, you can. Why not? And I try to make it so that anyone who comes in feels invited and feels like it's a place where they want to come and relax every time. And so when I set up my shop, I just kept that vision in mind. And I didn't know what it was going to look like, but I knew, somewhere along the lines what I wanted. And so that's just how I decided to arrange my shop, and I'm glad that I did it that way.
And I can appreciate that from a neurodivergency lens. So like a lot of people on the spectrum like myself have the most difficulty with lighting.
Uh-huh.
Because especially like these fluorescent lights, like I can't stand them because they like make your eyes slightly constrict and
Right.
expand. And it's really hard to sort of relax. And so like that whole idea of the lighting piece is so huge
Yeah.
because it allows your brain to sort of calm down a bit.
Yeah, I feel like, as soon as you walk in and the lights are dim, you're already feeling like you can breathe, you can relax, you can let those shoulders roll, and that's the hardest part for everyone is relaxing. You don't even know. Like every time that I do somebody's nails or even their toes, especially the first few times that someone comes into me, they're usually very tense because they normally don't have good experiences when they go somewhere else. And, I get that. So I always try to be very comforting to everybody and very reassuring that I know exactly what I'm doing. And I just, give them a little, it's okay, like just relax. Especially when I'm doing toes. And it could be either they're tense or ticklish. So a lot of people are very ticklish, which is normal. We got a lot of nerve endings going on our feet. So there's a lot going on our feet. So yes, they're going to be ticklish or, sensitive in general. It's a sensitive area on our body. So I always like reminds people like just relax, or some people tense their toes up and curl them, and I'm like, let's relax, and people just laugh. They're like, sorry, I don't even know I'm doing it.
Well, it's because a lot of it too is, interestingly enough, I have been through situations where I liken it to sort of like tattoo industry, right?
Uh-huh.
Some tattoo artists have a really firm, aggressive touch.
Right.
Some tattoo artists are very skilled in knot pressure and all that stuff. And I have been on both sides of the equation on the manicure and pedicure realm,
Okay.
where if the person doing your nails is overly aggressive,
Okay. Yeah.
it kind of hurts.
Yeah. And that's what I tell people. It shouldn't hurt. However, there are people who have like
Sensitive skin.
yes, and the older we get, the thinner our skin gets. So some people will have sensitive skin, and to them it might be tender because they have thinner skin, or they got health issues going on that makes their, skin sensitive, or they're heat sensitive. But I always tell everyone it shouldn't hurt to get your manicure done or your toes done unless you have something medical going on that is the reason why. And in that case, which I've had people who have like neuropathy, so their feet are very sensitive, and it ranges differently for everyone. Some don't feel a thing. Some are like, oh, like the, little touch hurts. And it's rare, right? That happens. But, some people have different needs, and I always try to be accommodating to everyone. And I kind of just read people's energies and ask them if I feel like maybe it's hurting or not hurting, but like if they feel uncomfortable, I'm always like, are you okay? Does it hurt? Or are you ticklish? I always try to ask, especially when someone is new, because once they come to me, then I know their needs and I don't have to ask. But, when people come in and they're new, and, I can see why they're tense. I can see why, they're ticklish. If it's their first time, they never been with me, so they don't know what it's going to be like. But I'm always reassuring to everybody, and I'm always like, it's okay, you can relax, So that's important, the communication is important. I want to make you feel special when you're in my chair because you're here to see me to relax. You're here to get pampered, and that's exactly what it should feel like every time.
And one of the things I'm curious about, have you seen, so one of the things I've noticed about Salem in particular over the last couple of years is when the city and the state in particular, made this choice to allow people to work from home.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the businesses in that sort of downtown Salem core sort of really took a huge hit for the longest time.
Yeah.
And as time has gone on, especially like in the last 6 months ago, it's been my experience that I'm starting to see people come back
Yeah.
and businesses sort of picking up. Is that something that you also see as a business that's located in the heart of downtown Salem right now?
100%. So I will say when I opened up my business, it was kind of like after COVID. And so downtown was looking a little sketchy, you know. There was a lot of houseless people, and during COVID, we all know how bad that got. That situation got really bad for a lot of people. So at first it was a little sketchy downtown for a little bit, but you know, once you're there and you realize like these people are good people, and but sometimes I have like clients that might not feel comfortable with that. So then like as a business owner, that's hard
Yeah.
because I have to like let my clients know like you're safe here, like it's okay. And I'm glad that, a lot of things have changed since then where these people have a place to go. So they're not just out on the street, it's a lot nicer now. And I hope that a lot of those people have a place now, like where they can go and, not be outside in the cold, or in the heat. Like, it's different every time. But, since then, like it's gotten better. I feel like, Salem's getting a little better with that. And having facilities for these people who need it has made a difference. And, you know, I feel like even this year, like this time of year, like there's more people.
Yeah.
There's more people. And I love seeing that. I love seeing that like downtown is growing. People are feeling a little more comfortable to come downtown. There's more businesses. And one thing that I always get told by people is like, wow, I didn't even know this was in the Reed Opera House.
Right. Yeah.
And it's true. There's so many awesome local businesses in the Reed Opera House. But if you don't go downtown, it's like you're not going to know it's there. So, that's why I like telling my clients about my neighbors and people that I work with, because there are a lot of cool businesses at the Reed Opera House or downtown.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I really actually appreciate the direction that Salem is going, because they're moving away from those national chains and the national brands, and they seem to be really a refocus on supporting local and community. Because one of the things that I talk ad nauseum about this podcast is the importance of community support, because every dollar you invest in a locally owned business stays local. Every dollar you invest in Walmart goes to Las Vegas or whatever other state.
Yeah,
it goes to.
some rich guy that
right.
doesn't even live here.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like supporting any of your local businesses is so important. It's what keeps our city going. It keeps our city going, and it motivates people. Like, we need more of that. It's fun, and it's like, so go support your local businesses. We all need each other. And there's so many cool businesses out there that, if you don't go out there and you don't know about them. So it's like, go check them out.
Yeah, because one of the things that I like to stress too is just the difference in the levels of customer service from a small business owner. Because like the investment that you have to make in terms of customer service is huge compared to the national chains, because they can afford not to care.
Absolutely.
And I love the small business feel and concept, because more often than not, I would say probably 99.9% of the time, you're going to have an experience at a small business that you're not going to get anywhere else.
Yes.
Because of just that factor alone.
Yeah, it's more, it's more of a cozy feel, and it's more warming and welcoming, because, we're a local too. So it's like, we care that you're supporting us, because that makes a difference for us. That feeds our families, like people that are like shopping local, you're helping a family. So of course we're going to be warming and welcoming every time, because we absolutely love you guys. Like, you guys are making, it easy for us, and you're helping us put food on our table. Like, that's awesome. It's like community coming together. I feel like everyone should always treat others that way anyway. But
100%.
But it's not always the case.
Yeah. Especially like it's interesting, because like I feel like we're in a time in this country where I feel so divided yet also so connected.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because if you listen to the media and you listen to all of the external messaging, you would think we as a society are way more divided than we really are.
Yeah.
Because like this idea of rugged individualism is not real. Like, did you build your car? Did you build your house? Like, you did not. So rugged individualism is just not real. Like, we are a community. We rely on each other for everything.
Yeah.
And so how can we take this approach of rugged individualism as opposed to community care and community involvement? Because we don't live in a vacuum. And it's one of those interesting things. And I'm starting to get the sense that more and more people are becoming aware of that as I have these conversations.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. It's like, if you turn on the television, it just feels like the world is burning.
Yeah.
But, when you're out there in your city, it's like really not all that like that, you know? And especially like, in a smaller city like Salem,
Yeah.
it's important to, go support your local businesses. Like, it's so important. So important to just be supportive and show kindness. Like, and when you're out there doing that, it's like, it's not all that bad. It's really not. There's a lot of cool people out here.
Yeah, and I don't want to discredit the realities of what's going on in our communities too,
Yeah.
right? Because that's important. Like
Yeah.
people's lives are in danger and at risk at
Right.
some level, right?
Right.
Like I live
Like,
in a
it's not all peachy.
right, 100%. Like for example, I live in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood, and in the last 6 months, what I don't see anymore because of the natural environment that we've got going on is kids aren't feeling safe enough to play in the streets.
Isn't that just so
Like
sad?
my neighbor has a party with his family every Saturday, and it used to be he would party with his family out and they would have a barbecue and all. Now it's indoors, and only like half of the people come
Yeah.
because they're too afraid, and rightly so,
Yes.
to go outside.
Yeah, people don't understand that. Like, that fear is so real for some of us who are Hispanic. And even if you're not, a migrant person,
Right.
like, you don't have to be a migrant to be in fear, because, like, I feel like in general, some people just have it out there for a person of color. And it's so sad that some people feel that way. And, I definitely worry for a lot of my loved ones. And even though they're not doing anything wrong, you just never know. And that's the scary reality, is people don't realize that that's actually such a major issue right now. And I feel like there's so much misconception of what's really going on out there.
100%.
A lot of people think like, oh yeah, they're, getting all the people that are criminals, but it's like they're really not. And
No.
and it's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking because I went to my favorite coffee shop the other day, and it's now owned by somebody else because the guy who owned it was deported. And it was like his whole life's being to just
Yeah.
poured into this business. And he had this amazing independent coffee stand where the coffee and everything was just 10 times better than anywhere else. So I'll
Oh.
drive like 5 miles out of my way to go to this guy's coffee
Yeah,
stand.
then it's some good coffee.
And to hear like they deported him
Oh man.
and he had to give up his life dream and go back to a really horrific environment where he wasn't safe to begin with.
I just don't get that,
I don't
Some of
either.
these people are so hardworking, and they're the most hardworking people that you'll ever see. I went to a local restaurant out on Commercial one day. Like, I picked up some lunch that I ordered. And I noticed that the people that are usually in the front, there was no one there.
Oh,
And it just broke my heart, because I'm like, these people are really in fear of their livelihoods. And it's not right. No one should have to fear, being a person of color.
100%. And like I had a guest on a couple weeks ago uh, talking about how she created this Black Joy event, and people got upset that it was a Black Joy event. And I'm like, I don't understand where that comes from.
I think people just, really have a misconception about, the way people like, myself or other people of color want to make it something positive, right? People don't get that. Unfortunately, they want to make it like, oh, that's bad. Like, and it's really not. Like, we're trying to turn something that is a negative into a positive by reinforcing that with something good, a good outcome, a positive outcome, supporting your community members. Like, it shouldn't be something negative or looked as something negative.
And I find it extremely ironic that the people that are the most vocal about all of this have only been here for 2 generations. So they're immigrants themselves. And so that this philosophy of being anti-immigrant when you're not Native American and you're an immigrant yourself
Absolutely.
confuses the hell out of me.
You know, gosh, that's a hard topic right there. I will just start saying, I'm not going to say no names, but you know, everybody has those family members.
Yeah.
And I don't get it. You know, my parents, you know, they migrated here and I'm happy that they did.
Yeah.
Because of them, I have the life that I have. You know, I got to be born into this country that, you know, I'm proud to be an American and I'm proud of my parents for coming here and starting a new life with nothing. You know, a lot of these people, like, you know, they come here with nothing but the clothes on their back and a dream. Okay. Like most of us are like, oh, I can't move to another city or another state. What am I going to do? It's scary. Now imagine leaving the only country and the only place you knew to have a better life, a better future, you know, because you have a dream. And I feel like that was kind of the foundation of this country. That's how our country started. And, you know, sure, it might have not been right in the beginning, right? But somewhere along the line, it was, you know, supposed to be a country made of migrant people. And I don't know how that just got lost.
I don't know if it got lost. And I say that because the reality is 3/5 is in the Constitution. And so when this country was founded, we still had in our laws that Black people were 3/5 of a human being.
Yeah.
And so our country was kind of found on racism and kind of found on religious persecution. And so when I hear people say, like, can we get back to like, no, they were racist as F back then.
Oh, yes.
Like horrible
Yeah.
to people that weren't of their dominant culture.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to me, though, that they're not willing to sort of take a step back and think about their own lives and how they got here.
Yeah. Like, how did you get here? There was already people native to this land living here, and you just thought that you would come and take over and then have the audacity to feel how you feel about another person's of color. Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't make any sense, does it?
No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. And if we could just get past that,
Yeah.
I think we would be much better off.
You know, in a perfect world, I hope that
Yeah.
one day it's like that. But I feel like as long as people have these strong feelings about, you know, these, you know, this concept of something that's so misconstrued, like, who knows? Who knows when it'll happen? But, you know, gotta always think positive.
I'm hopeful for younger generations.
Me too.
You know, because like I see like the schools, and I see like, because like as somebody who's autistic, the difference between school now and school then, and like how much focus on inclusivity and how much focus on becoming a sense of community. Now we still have the bad apple parents and the bad apple families that still sort of teach hate, because hate is taught, folks.
Absolutely.
It's not something that's internal, like we automatically hate other human beings. No, that is something you learn from somebody else. And it's so much easier to be kind and love people than it is to hate people. Like, if you have this urge to hate people, I'm sorry for your life. It must be terrible.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. I have a daughter and she's in middle school, and I always teach her to be loving to everybody, because you don't know what somebody else has going on back at home. You know, not every kid has a loving home. So I've always taught my daughter to be loving, and, you know, I always told her, if you see a kid sitting alone, invite them to come sit with you, because they might not know how to make friends. They might be too shy, or they just don't even know how to begin to make friends, right? And, you know, I teach my daughter a lot of things because, you know, she's biracial and, you know, she's Hispanic and African American. And, you know, it's hard out there,
Yeah.
you know, and I have to teach my child these things because, she's going to be out there one day in the world. And I have to let her know, like, this is the reality of things. And as heartbreaking as it is, this is what happens to people of color. This is what, you know, I personally have experienced. Or, other people experience these horrible scenarios every day, and it's not pretty. And, unfortunately, now that she's in middle school, there are some of those kids that are hateful who say racist things. And it breaks my heart because these are kids. And of course, they're saying this because they hear this at home.
Yeah.
And, as a parent, I know that my child wasn't born with hate. She is kind, she loves everybody and is friends with everybody. So it's like, kids don't do that unless they're taught back.
100%.
And I just hope that, more parents are teaching their kids to be kind. I have to tell my kid, if you know anyone who's Hispanic, like, and they might be going through a hard time right now. If things are hard at home with everything going on, they might not come to school because they're afraid to, So I try to tell her, like, you know, be kind to people. And if you notice someone, needs anything, like, be there for them, be that support. I feel like it's our job as parents to teach our children that, because these are going to be the people of the future. Our kids are the future and they're going to be adults one day. And we need to teach them to be kind and accept people and not, you know, not be kind. Like, our kids shouldn't be mean.
And I think that uh, you brought up a piece that kind of hurts my heart. At the same time, it's the reality of where you have to teach your child those adult things at a young age in order to survive.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine the complexity of you as a mother having to have these conversations. And I just wanted to let you know that I recognize the struggle
Yeah.
and that I'm appreciative that you have those conversations. And I'm also sorry that you have to have those conversations.
Thank you. It really is hard. People don't realize that, but it's hard when you're a person of color, and not just a person of color, but when you're a woman and a person of color. Like, you get it both ways, right? And so I just want my child to be a strong woman one day and a kind person. Um, so I feel like it's important to have those uncomfortable conversations about society, because if I don't teach her those things, she's going to go out there not knowing people behave this way. And it's going to be worse, because then she's going to come to me and wonder, why are people like this? No. So I feel like all parents should teach their kids that, because it's important to talk about the most uncomfortable things sometimes that can make a difference. And even though no parent should have to tell their kids, hey, you might experience um, people being prejudiced against you or XYZ because you're a person of color. No parent should have to say that to their child.
Yeah.
But I feel like it is important, because you're teaching them something, and you're teaching them to hold their values and not be afraid to stand up for themselves or for somebody else, for that matter.
Yeah. And I heard an artist recently, Jensen McCrae. She's an amazing singer. And one of the songs that she has is about her experience as a child and how her mother took painstaking time and energy to go through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of magazines to cut out all of the African American women in the magazine just so she could sit down and have a conversation with her daughter about what African beauty looks like.
Wow.
Because like if she didn't do that, she was going to think beauty is just this dominant culture. Like these are only the pictures. And so she was intentional about having a program to teach her daughter what beauty is from the eye of somebody of color,
Yeah.
because it's absent in the world out there.
Yeah.
And it was heartbreaking yet beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and beauty comes in all shapes, sizes, and colors. Like, come on, people. And honestly, beauty's in here.
100%.
Beauty's in here. To me, that's what makes a person beautiful or sexy, is how you are, how you treat people. You know, someone could be drop dead gorgeous, and if they're a total jerk and to everyone like that, for me, automatically makes you an ugly person.
Couldn't agree more.
You know, it's important to teach your kids that not everything is physical, and just because someone is a person of color doesn't mean they're not beautiful.
100%. And then one of the things I also say on this podcast, I'm sure people are tired of me saying, is that not even identical twins have the same story.
Exactly.
And so if you come with judgment at the door, like you don't know anything about somebody's life or what they've been through. And so if you can come with curiosity, you'd be amazed what you can learn. Because some of the most amazing life lessons I have learned along the way come from people that you would not expect. People who have been through the ringer in life, but yet managed to sort of get through that and become successful.
That is so true.
For every story there is about somebody who's like a really mean person who is like a bully, I have 10 of beautiful people that are kind and doing amazing things. But yet we're in this weird society now where those are the voices that aren't on the media.
Yeah.
Those aren't the stories that we're telling. Like we have movies like John Wick where you kill 550 people and that's the #1 box office. And you have a documentary about all these women in NASA and it doesn't even get a blip on the radar. And you look at it and like, why is that? Oh, because they spent $150 million or $1 billion in advertising John Wick.
Yeah.
The same people don't think it's worthy enough to advertise this other movie. And so there's this whole culture in the dominant media space that doesn't allow room for people's stories that are just amazing. And that breaks my heart sometimes.
You know, that is awful. Like, you know, these are real heroes. These are people that are out here actually, like, you know, can you just imagine working for NASA, all the things you had to do to even get there?
There's a scene in that movie where that woman is talking about having to like walk almost like a half a mile to use the bathroom.
I love that movie.
Like that scene there was like totally like, I didn't even think about that.
That is so real. And, you know, I loved that scene in that movie because that's real. You know, a lot of people really experienced that, you know, back in the day. And it's unfortunate that people did have to experience that, and it breaks my heart. But when she said that, like, that just was so empowering. And, you know, she made a difference. She made a freaking difference, man. Like, that was awesome.
And that whole concept, sometimes like you need that sort of a language and dialogue to let people know that is a thing.
Yes.
Like, I think we have to have this balance of understanding and appreciating the historical context, but I don't want us to keep in the historical context. What I think a lot of the times in these conversations that are missing is we focus so much on the historical and we don't focus enough. Okay, now what? How can we avoid that from happening again?
Right.
It's one thing to make a movie out of it. That's great. How are we going to stop that from happening other places? And that's the conversation like I want to have.
Yeah, you know, and I feel like that's not going to change because people aren't asking those questions, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like the example you gave of the movie, the guy was like, hey, why are you gone for such a long time every day? Where do you go? And she had to explain herself of, I have to go to the bathroom, but it's this far away. So it takes me however long to go do that and come back, you know? And, because he asked for that and he had no idea that was even a thing for her, it helped make a difference. It helped to solve that issue. But it's like, how many issues could we solve if we just asked someone a simple question of, like, even how are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, just in general, caring for people make a difference.
Because it's also interesting because like I think about it like from a lens of privilege too, because like people who have lived privileged lives tend to just not even think about that kind of stuff.
Right.
And it's one of those things where once you bring it to somebody's attention and they're aware of it, it's finally starts to shift the way they're thinking, right? Because one of the things I ask all the time is, why aren't we having classes about poverty in our schools? Why aren't we teaching our children about poverty, about acceptance, about inclusion? Like it's not even a part of the lesson plan.
Yeah.
The lesson plan is historic white dominant culture and like how to be better worker bees.
Yeah.
And it's like,
why are we dumbing down our kids?
yeah, yeah.
Let's teach them the real things, like things that real skills that you're going to have to use outside of school when you're an adult, I know some people say like when they were in school, they were taught like, how to do certain things around the house or, I'm glad they still have some programs like how to cook.
Yeah.
Things like that. Like we need more of that, and less time like, with like telling our kids we have to do this or we have to be this for society. It's like, who cares? Who cares what people think? We need to teach our kids how to be strong and independent and how to be a real person out there.
And how to love and respect themselves.
Yes.
Right. Because a lot of the issues that I think is if we don't love and respect ourselves, it's really hard for us to love and respect other people.
Absolutely. And one thing I will say, the hardest thing I've ever had to learn in my life is self-love.
Yeah.
I struggled with that for so long until I realized how important is self-love. You let yourself go through these hard situations in life when you don't have them.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the difference it makes when you realize like how much power does that hold, It's so important to have that.
Because like when you value yourself, you have value to yourself and you make decisions that you wouldn't otherwise make, because if you don't have that love or value for yourself, there are times where you will jeopardize your own human being for a decision in the moment that seems kind of right because that's what's expected of you.
Yeah.
But in reality, like that's not good for you. And I think that's a difference.
Absolutely. Like not loving yourself will have you in situations that after things are said and done, you're like, why did I do that? Why did I let somebody treat me like that? Or why did I make that bad choice?
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, we're all human and, we're not going to learn those lessons until we go through them. So, I do teach my kid about that. I always, I've always spoken positivity to her and self-love and good affirmations, like since she was a baby, and one thing that I always taught her is love the skin you're in, love your beautiful hair. Don't let people tell you you're not that girl when you know you're that girl. Because that's important. Everyone should feel great about themselves. Everyone should love themselves and love everything about yourself because you're one of a kind and you're the only you out there. So love yourself, just like you want somebody else to love you, you got to love yourself even more,
And the last thing I'll say, because we've been at this conversation for about an hour now, because I want to stress to people listening, right? If you are in a position of privilege and you see a wrong in this world, stand up, because more often than not, if somebody is experiencing some sort of ableism, racism, sexism in the moment, if they're the victim, they don't have a lot of power to stand up because they're dealing with the ism at the moment. So if you, as a bystander who's not involved in that situation but sees something going on, stand up and try to help the person in need. And I can't stress enough how important that is. And I know you have the urge to sort of stay out of it and be uncomfortable, but at the same time, if you do sort of see something, say something and support the victim.
100%. Yeah.
So we're going to wrap this up. How can people find out more about your business?
So I am located at the Reed Opera House. That's 189 Liberty Street Northeast, Salem, Oregon. And I am located in the lower level. And I do have some of my signs posted up there. And you can also contact me by calling or texting me at 971-382-2978. And even if it's late, like I said, I will get back to you the next morning.
And the name?
Carma
Right.
Nails.
Yeah, Carma
Come
Nails.
to Carma Nails, downtown Salem, Oregon.
And it's spelled?
Carmanails.
Yeah, because there's some karma with a C.
Yeah, it's because it's a mix of my first and last name, Carina Martinez.
I love it.
So that's, yeah.
And I'll end this podcast the way I always end this podcast. People, be kind. We live on the same planet. We share the same air. And this place would just be a much better world if we treated everybody with kindness and respect. Carina, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Sean. It was a pleasure.